Hello and welcome. My name is Andy McIsaac, and today is Thursday, March 14th, which means spring is right around the corner. And so is the annual Shrewsbury Town election. Tonight, I'm privileged to be sitting down with Beth, Shea, Bryant, a lifelong resident of Shrewsbury, a graduate of Shrewsbury High School, a mother of two, a town meeting member from Precinct 8, a member of the Shrewsbury Commission on Disabilities, and now a candidate for a seat on the Shrewsbury Housing Authority. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you to Shrewsbury Media Connection for hosting this conversation tonight.
Great. So Beth, you're running for a seat on the Shrewsbury Housing Authority. For those who don't know, what is the Shrewsbury Housing Authority, and why is it important to the town?
Okay, the Shrewsbury Housing Authority consists of a board, the executive director, Kelly Bergeron, who handles the day-to-day operations, 3 elected members, a member appointed by the state, and a resident member that lives in one of the housing units. The function of the board is to oversee the units that are in Shrewsbury Towers, Francis Gardens, Elizabeth Gardens, better known as Elizabeth Street, the family units, there's some group homes, and the Section 8 vouchers. Housing Authority is important because they have the oversight of all the facilities here in Shrewsbury, and they oversee the financial responsibilities. So they watch the costs that come in through the contractors, their maintenance costs, et cetera.
Okay. So being elected to the board, you're representing the community as a whole, as a community member, and obviously we know housing is very important to all of us, but specifically where it comes to housing authority types of properties. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. I know you're a nurse, and how you feel that gives you the right experience to be elected as a community member or community representative to the Shrewsbury Housing Authority.
Well, I have been a nurse for 35 years. Wow. And currently I am working as a nurse care manager with low-income seniors. So I also have a special needs daughter. So it's always been a dream of mine to take my experience as a nurse and that as a parent of a special needs child and help the community. I got appointed to the Commission on Disabilities, and I was able to spread my wings and advocate for a wider group than just my daughter. Now I work with low-income seniors. I don't see anybody in Shrewsbury. I do see people in other towns. I see good and bad. I want to be able to take now this experience and advocate for the wider group of people, which includes those with disabilities and seniors and families, and take the experience. I've seen properties that are they're beautiful, and then I go into others and it's disheartening. Right. And I really want to take that experience, help my neighbors. That's what I say when I'm on the doors, is to help my neighbors. And for example, there's a couple that I see, they're on a 2nd floor apartment, again, not in Shrewsbury. They've waited 5 years for a 1st floor apartment. The woman uses a walker, so she's at very high risk for falls to begin with, and the fact that now she has to walk downstairs every time she goes out of her apartment, she's at risk for injury. So it's really important. Clean, safe housing is really important to the overall health and well-being of people in town.
Yeah, I think that
people everywhere,
right.
Not just in town.
No, but yeah, definitely housing is really important as really a social determinant of health, and
absolutely.
I think people may not realize that people need to have safe and secure housing. So I think some of the experience that you have and perspective you have, I think both personally and professionally, will really make you a good addition to the Shrewsbury Housing Authority.
And that's exactly my goal, is to take that professional experience and the personal experience, and again, help my neighbors in even in a broader pool than just even those that are served by the Commission on Disabilities.
Well, great.
And I'm
great.
really excited the opportunity.
Well, I know, I know that running a campaign is a lot of work. This is a contested race, which is great for Shrewsbury. It's great to have people that like yourself that are committed to putting themselves out there. And so I know you've been doing a lot of work already. You've been hitting the streets. You've been busy meeting with people, listening to members of the Housing Authority communities, as well as the general public. What are some of the things that you're hearing as you're out campaigning? And do you have any ideas of some of the major things that need to get looked at, or how you might even address some of those things?
To start, I think our Housing Authority does a really great job. I think Kelly is amazing at what she does, from watching the meetings and for speaking with her personally. I think that she's does a phenomenal job. But Kelly's Kelly's one person, and people are going to have different concerns. It seems like the common thread that I've heard is the safety of those living in the communities, because it may not be all seniors living in a facility. You may have what's called the young disabled that are mixed in with the seniors. And you have to really be careful to avoid discrimination, because a disability doesn't necessarily mean that somebody with a walker or somebody with a cane or somebody in a wheelchair. It could be somebody with mental health issues. It could be somebody with opioid addiction. So that seems to be the common theme is the residents' concerns when there's the mixed population. Security has been added down to the towers to help.
Address some of those issues. So you could be really dealing with, it's not just the elderly, it's not the disabled, it could be a whole mix. It's really a diverse group of people who rely on these services. So I imagine there's a number of different needs and concerns that they have.
And it's valid concerns. This is a person's home.
True.
It's like
Right.
there's not a lot of places you can go besides your home, and that's your safety and security. So they are very valid concerns. And I think so far the Housing Authority has done a really great job as far as putting security in place to help alleviate some of those concerns.
Great. So you've been out meeting with people and you're doing the canvassing. Or are there other things that you're hearing, or other things that you'd like to work on if you become a member of the board?
Well, the board doesn't run the day-to-day operations. That's the job of Kelly. The board really is the oversight, and they also policy, developing policy, which I actually just wrote policy for the Commission on Disabilities for our business recognition program, which was kind of my baby. And it's become the cornerstone of the Commission on Disabilities. So I'm really excited that the policy got written and it got voted in on our meeting on Tuesday. But some of the meetings that I've attended so far, it's heating. Some of the apartments are really hot, putting up gutters, the trash, and all these need to be expressed. And that's one thing. If I'm so fortunate as to get elected onto the Housing Authority, I want people to always feel free to express, whether it is something that the authority can deal with directly, or because again, day-to-day operations goes to Kelly, but day-to-day operations can drive policy.
Right.
So again, business recognition program for the Commission on Disabilities now has driven us to develop a policy for the business recognition program.
Well, great. Yeah, policy is important, so I think that's going to give you a good background.
And this wasn't the first policy I've written. I've had experience writing policy when I was at UMass Medical Center and presenting it to a big crowd.
Well, that can always be scary. I know one of the other things you do, which I kind of find interesting. I'm a dog lover, and I know you're a dog lover as well.
That's right.
But you have your dog Baxter, who's
I am a dog Baxter.
who's a trained therapy dog, or
He is a registered therapy dog. So, all right. So just to put this into perspective, I have my master's degree in nursing. So, and when I first got out of school, I had a diploma because I went to a hospital-based school. I went on to get my bachelor's degree. Then I said, well, let's take it one step further and got my master's degree. Training the dog to do therapy work has far surpassed getting the master's degree. It was the most difficult thing that I've had to do, as having dogs.
Yeah.
They don't always want to listen. So we trained for a year and a half. It took us 2 tries at the test. But we got there, and we now do therapy work on the 2nd and 4th Saturday of the month up at the Worcester Recovery Center and Hospital. And I honestly look forward to those days that we go up there, because this really, it brings normalcy to people. It really, happiness. One gentleman had said that they were just playing cards and watching a soccer game until they heard the dogs were there. Yeah. And then everybody came rushing out. So you can really see, I actually chose to be mentored before we actually did visits together, which was wonderful. And just so, again, I'm focused on the dog while I'm doing the therapy work, so I was able to kind of sit back and actually see the impact. And when my mentor said that the dogs being there is some of the only normalcy that the patients get in their day, it's through tears, I was like, just sign me up. And we have little business cards too, and we hand them out, and my mentor is like, sometimes that's the only thing folks have when they leave the hospital.
Right.
Is those business cards. It's like the only possession they have. So it's been as much my therapy as it has been for them. It's
that-
wonderful. I love doing it.
that
Thank you for
sounds-
asking that.
That sounds great, and I've seen Baxter. He's a great little guy, and I know he gets exhausted after that because I've seen him. I've seen him
The
asleep.
whole day.
Well, that's great that you're able to do that as well. I mean, so you really have a lot of experience, I think, working with different populations, the elderly and the disabled, and those who would need different services. So I think that's a great perspective that you would bring to the table.
Yeah, we actually go into the deaf unit too.
Oh.
So what I did is I taught Baxter how to sit down with the sign language sit, so that creates like the bond with the person who's interacting with him. So it's always been my goal to kind of always try to bring people in together and have that bond. Like the Commission on Disabilities is, we're hooked up with the Council on Aging. When Trails Committee was doing a project, it was like, well, let's put out what trails are accessible. The Garden Club had a garden put up behind the town hall, and it's like, oh, let's, I'll spread that word. So it's all about kind of always bringing that community together.
Yeah, I think you hit a great point. Community. I mean, we are Shrewsbury, community as a whole, as a town, but there are different groups. There are different ecosystems. Obviously, you just mentioned some of them. It sounds like you've got a lot of experience, working with the Commission on Disabilities and some of the other groups, really around building connections, ecosystems,
Yes.
expanding the community
Exactly.
and the outreach.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about that.
So again, the business recognition program, the reason why that was started is I was out with my daughter. It was actually Home Depot, and people were tripping over themselves to try to help us. And I said, let's try to take our commission and really make it put a positive spin on it. So now we're recognizing businesses that provide exceptional service for those with disabilities, and any kind of disability. If it's somebody who's on the autism spectrum, it's like, is there a place that's very welcoming to people that are on that spectrum? Going with the Trails Committee, going with the Garden Club. I noticed actually on the Housing Authority's website there was a link to Council on Aging, and I'm like, well, we should have a link to the Commission on Disabilities. We started to get more involved in the spirit of Shrewsbury and having a table. We will be at the Diversity Festival. Actually hosted a voter registration day at the farmer market during Disability Voter Registration Week to try to get people, because programs are getting cut, and the way to get, to stop programs getting cut is to get out there and vote and put people in places where they're going to protect those services.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I would bring to Housing Authority, kind of like that bridging with the community, and how having exposure to the housing, having people know that we're there, know what they do.
Right.
I'd like to bring that kind of outreach.
Yeah, that outreach, I think, and working to build the ecosystem of, because I think a lot of sometimes Commission on Disabilities, Council on Aging, the Housing Authority have a lot of similar goals, maybe serve a lot of similar populations.
Exactly. Everybody's working in a silo, and we have, a group of so many people. You start putting those people together, power in numbers, and you can really make some great goals. So.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I know you're really excited about this.
Sure am.
So we know the election's coming up quickly. Do you have a direct message to the voters?
Yes, I do. Hello, voters of Shrewsbury. My name is Beth Shea Bryant, and I am running for Housing Authority, and I would greatly appreciate your vote on Tuesday, May 7th. If you want to learn more about me and the campaign, you can go to electsheabryant.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
And don't forget to vote, folks, on Tuesday, May 7th. Thank you.